What if every choice you've ever made was never truly yours? What if the words you speak, the beliefs you hold, and even the rebellions you think are your own were all planted, nurtured, and shaped by forces you cannot see? In every age, there have been those who pull the strings and those who dance to the music, blissfully unaware. The question is, which one are you? 5 centuries ago, in a world of intrigue and betrayal, a man named Niccolò Machiavelli dared to map the hidden mechanics of power. To most, the word Machiavellian conjures images of ruthless villains, political snakes, or cold-hearted manipulators. But the truth is more dangerous than the caricature. Machiavelli was not simply a schemer, he was a survivor. In the streets of Renaissance Florence, alliances were fragile, loyalties were currency, and mercy was often a prelude to ruin. Machiavelli watched kings, popes, generals, and merchants play their games. He saw the blood on their hands and the masks on their faces, and he understood something most never dared to admit. Human nature does not change. Our fears, our desires, our need for security over freedom, they are constants. And if you know these constants, you can control people without them even realizing it. In 1513, Machiavelli condensed his hard-earned wisdom into a work that would outlive empires. The Prince, not a philosophical fantasy, but a brutal survival guide for anyone forced to navigate a world where trust is a gamble and power is the only true currency. It revealed the unspoken rules. It showed that perception is often more powerful than reality. That morality, in the hands of the powerful, is often a costume. That to win, you must understand people not as they wish to be, but as they are. 500 years later, those same rules still govern politics, business, and even personal relationships. The stage has changed. Renaissance courts replaced by boardrooms and news feeds. But the strategies remain. They echo in the speeches of leaders, the campaigns of brands, and the invisible algorithms shaping what you see, hear, and think. Over the next hour, we will step inside Machiavelli's mind. We will expose the weapons he forged from the raw metal of human weakness. We will see how those weapons have not been retired, but sharpened, and how they may be pointed at you right now. And perhaps, by the end, you will no longer see the world as a place of random chaos and chance. Perhaps you will see the strings, and perhaps you will wonder who, at this very moment, is pulling yours. To understand Machiavelli's mind, you must first step into the Florence of the late 1400s. This was not the romanticized Florence of postcards and art books. It was a city of contradictions, where beauty and brutality walked side by side. Marble cathedrals soared above the streets, casting shadows over alleys where knives flashed in the dark. Gold flowed through the markets, and yet so did whispers of treachery. At the heart of the city, the Medici family ruled like monarchs in all but name, their influence woven into the very fabric of Florence. Across candlelit chambers, rival families like the Pazzi plotted their downfall, sometimes with velvet words, other times with steel. One night could change everything. Alliances made in the morning might be shattered by dusk. And beyond the city walls, foreign powers loomed: France, Spain, the Holy Roman Empire, each ready to claim this jewel of Italy for themselves. In this crucible of ambition and fear, Niccolò Machiavelli rose not as a warrior, but as a diplomat. He traveled between courts, speaking with kings, bargaining with generals, watching how power truly operated. He saw how promises meant nothing when survival was at stake. He saw kindness repaid with betrayal. He saw mercy mistaken for weakness. These were not lessons in theory. They were lessons paid for in blood. Florence was an open-air chessboard, and every player knew the stakes. Victory brought fortune and honor, but a single miscalculated move could end in exile. imprisonment, or death. In such a world, the currency was not gold, but cunning. The most valuable skill was not generosity, but the ability to read the hearts of men and use their fears as levers. It was here that Machiavelli's belief took root, that in a realm where treachery was inevitable, idealism was a liability. A ruler who clung to noble illusions would be devoured by those who embraced reality. To survive, you needed to act not as the world should be, but as it was. Florence taught him that power is not granted. It is taken, defended, and, if necessary, wielded without hesitation. This was the world that forged Machiavelli's vision, a Renaissance masterpiece painted not only in the colors of art and culture, but in the deep, unshakable tones of ambition, fear, and calculated ruthlessness. And it was from this world that he would write the lessons that still ripple through our own. Power is not taken by force alone. More often, it is given, willingly, even eagerly, by those who believe they are making their own choices. Machiavelli understood this better than almost anyone in history. He knew that the human mind is not a fortress, but a labyrinth, full of predictable twists and hidden doors. Find the right entrance, and you can walk straight to the throne. The first weakness he recognized is our hunger for confirmation. We do not seek truth. We seek validation for what we already believe. In the courts of Renaissance Italy, a cunning ruler could gain loyalty simply by echoing the fears and hopes of his people. Tell them what they already think is true, and they will not question your motives. Centuries later, political campaigns do the same, tailoring speeches, slogans, and even advertisements to mirror the beliefs of their target audience. This is not persuasion in the traditional sense. It is the art of feeding people their own thoughts, wrapped in your agenda. Then there is the fear of loss. Machiavelli observed that people will fight harder to avoid losing something than to gain something new, threaten their safety, their position, or even their pride, and they will act with a ferocity you can direct. During his diplomatic missions, he saw rulers manufacture crises to rally their subjects, turning panic into loyalty. Today, the same tactic fuels headlines designed to keep you clicking, voting, or buying, not because of what you might gain, but because of what you might lose if you don't act. Herd mentality was another tool he exploited. People take comfort in moving with the crowd, in believing that the majority must be right. This instinct, born from our need to survive in groups, makes us easy to steer. A ruler need not convince everyone individually, only enough to create the illusion of consensus. Once the tide appears to turn, others will follow to avoid being left behind. Social media has perfected this dynamic, where trends and viral ideas spread not because they are true, but because they are popular. Above all, Machiavelli knew that the desire for security often outweighs the desire for freedom. Offer people stability, even at the cost of autonomy, and many will accept the bargain. In Florence, this meant tolerating the dominance of the Medici in exchange for peace. Today, it means trading privacy for convenience, independence for the comfort of being taken care of. None of these vulnerabilities are new. They are hardwired into us, the result of thousands of years of survival in a dangerous world. Machiavelli did not create them. He merely studied them, cataloged them, and learned to weave them into strategies that could topple enemies or build empires. Manipulation, in his hands, was not sorcery. It was alignment, matching his aims with the invisible currents already flowing through the minds of others. And that is the chilling truth. Machiavelli didn't invent manipulation. He simply refined it into an art form so precise, so enduring, that 5 centuries later, we still live under its shadow. Machiavelli's most infamous advice is also his most misunderstood. It is better to appear virtuous than to be virtuous. At first glance, it sounds like a cynical call to hypocrisy. But to Machiavelli, it was not about moral corruption. It was about survival in a world where perception outweighs reality. He saw that people rarely look beyond the surface. They believe what they can see and what they are told, because the truth is often too complex, too uncomfortable, or too dangerous to confront. In his eyes, a leader did not need to be pure of heart. They needed only to seem pure. They needed to project morality, generosity, fairness, even while making cold, calculated decisions behind the scenes. Virtue, in this sense, was not a personal trait, but a public performance. History offers many examples. Cesare Borgia, the cunning son of Pope Alexander VI, was ruthless in consolidating power, using assassination and intimidation to eliminate rivals. Yet he cloaked himself in the language of justice, portraying his actions as the restoration of order. The Medici family, masters of Florence's political stage, financed grand cathedrals, supported artists like Michelangelo, and sponsored public festivals, acts of generosity that secured their image as benevolent patrons, even as they maneuvered ruthlessly to protect their dominance. The psychology behind this is simple but powerful. People want to believe in heroes. They want leaders who reflect their ideals, even if only in appearance. The illusion of virtue creates comfort, stability, and trust. And once trust is established, it becomes a shield, protecting the leader from suspicion and softening the impact of any questionable actions. The same strategy thrives in our world today. Politicians wrap their campaigns in words like integrity and service, while their decisions are shaped by deals and compromises far from public view. CEOs speak of corporate responsibility and community values, while quietly prioritizing shareholder profit above all else. Influencers curate perfect altruistic personas, promoting charity work or ethical lifestyles, while concealing the brand deals, manipulation, and self-interest driving their success. Social media has turned the mask of virtue into a finely tuned craft. Image is no longer just a weapon of the powerful. It is a necessity for anyone seeking influence. A carefully staged photograph, a well-worded statement, a strategically timed act of generosity, all can be used to craft a reputation that shields the truth. Machiavelli understood that the mask does not have to be flawless. It only needs to be convincing enough that people prefer it to reality. In this way, appearances can become more enduring than truth itself. And in the theater of power, it is the mask, not the man, that rules. Power is never just about strength. It is about control over the board on which the game is played. Machiavelli understood that the surest way to keep power is not to fight every enemy head-on, but to ensure they never unite against you in the first place. His advice was simple and enduring: divide and rule. He saw politics as a chessboard, where each piece had its own ambitions, fears, and vulnerabilities. The key was not simply moving your own pieces forward, but ensuring that none of the others could work together. Rivalry, jealousy, mistrust. These were as valuable as armies, for they prevented alliances that could threaten your position. In Florence, this meant balancing the city's rival factions so that neither became dominant. When the merchants grew restless, the nobles were quietly reassured. When the nobles schemed, the commoners were subtly encouraged to distrust them. Each group was given just enough attention, just enough concessions, to keep them looking sideways at each other instead of upward at the one in power. The brilliance of this strategy is that division does not always need to be loud or violent. Sometimes all it takes is a whisper, a hint of doubt planted in the right ear, a rumor that undermines trust between partners, a selective release of information that fuels suspicion without revealing your hand. When people are busy questioning one another's motives, they are too distracted to question yours. In our time, the method is no less effective. Media polarization fractures societies into warring camps, each convinced the other is the real threat. Political leaders and interest groups benefit from this, because a divided public cannot mount a united challenge. Even in corporations, subtle competition between departments or executives ensures no one can build a coalition strong enough to challenge the CEO. Division creates dependency. When people feel surrounded by potential enemies, they cling to whoever promises protection, even if that protector is the very one who engineered their fear. Machiavelli knew that unity among the ruled is the greatest danger to the ruler. Keep the pieces scattered, keep them suspicious, and the game remains yours to play. Machiavelli's most debated question cut straight to the heart of leadership. Is it better to be feared or loved? His answer was measured, but blunt. In a perfect world, a ruler should be both. But the world is far from perfect, and when forced to choose, fear is the safer bet. Love, he observed, is fragile. It depends on affection, on mutual benefit, on the goodwill of others. It can be strong in calm times, but evaporates in moments of hardship or temptation. Fear, by contrast, is rooted in self-preservation. It compels obedience even when loyalty falters. People may admire a leader they love, but they will hesitate to betray a leader they fear. The psychology is simple. Love is voluntary. It asks for something from the heart. Fear is involuntary. It demands something from instinct. The survival drive is older, deeper, and harder to override than any ideal of loyalty or friendship. When danger appears, fear triggers immediate action. Love, on the other hand, can hesitate. History is filled with examples. Roman generals who kept absolute discipline in their legions understood that the threat of punishment could maintain order, even in chaos. In Florence, Machiavelli saw rulers survive political storms, not because their people adored them, but because no one dared to move against them. In the modern world, the same principle appears in the authority of law enforcement, in the grip of authoritarian leaders, and even in the discipline of competitive sports teams led by uncompromising coaches. But fear, in Machiavelli's philosophy, was not about cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was about deterrence, building an image of strength that discourages defiance before it begins. The most effective use of fear is calculated, not constant. A leader who rules through unrelenting terror risks pushing their subjects into desperate rebellion. A leader who applies it sparingly at decisive moments keeps order without destroying stability. This is where the moral question emerges. Is fear inherently evil, or is it simply a tool, one that can be used for both stability and oppression? In times of peace, fear can seem unnecessary, even inhumane. But in unstable times, when betrayal or invasion threatens survival, fear can be the force that holds everything together. Machiavelli did not celebrate fear as a virtue. He simply acknowledged it as a reality. Love is beautiful, but unpredictable. Fear is harsh, but dependable. And in the unforgiving arena of power, dependability can mean the difference between ruling and falling. The most effective form of control is the one that does not look like control at all. Machiavelli knew that people will resist outright coercion, but they will embrace a decision if they believe it was theirs from the start. To rule without constant resistance, he advised leaders to create the illusion of choice, freedom that exists only within the boundaries they set. He compared human decision-making to a river. A river flows freely, but its path is determined by the shape of its banks, the placement of its dams, the channels carved by forces it cannot see. In the same way, a skilled leader can shape the environment so that no matter which path people choose, they end up where the leader wants them to be. During his diplomatic missions, Machiavelli saw this principle in action. When negotiating with foreign powers, he would offer terms that seemed generous, allowing the other side to select from multiple options. But each option was crafted so that, regardless of the choice, Florence benefited. The opponent left the table believing they had negotiated a favorable deal, unaware they had walked straight into a design they never saw. In the modern world, this strategy is everywhere. Algorithms on social media feed you content tailored to your preferences, nudging you towards certain beliefs, products, or political positions, not by forcing you, but by making you feel you have discovered them yourself. Streaming platforms guide your viewing habits with carefully curated recommendations. Online stores influence your purchases through limited-time offers, bundled deals, and product placements. All of it is designed to make you think you are acting on your own, when in reality, you are following a path laid out for you. Behavioral economics has given this art a new vocabulary: framing, nudges, and decision architecture. Framing changes how a choice is perceived without altering the facts. A nudge subtly pushes you toward a preferred action without taking away alternatives. Decision architecture structures the environment so that the default or easiest option is the one most beneficial to the designer. The result is manipulation without confrontation, control without chains. The genius of the illusion of choice is that it removes the need for force. People do not rebel against what they believe they have chosen. They defend it. They justify it. They even take pride in it. Machiavelli understood that this was the highest form of manipulation. Not to crush a person's will, but to guide it so skillfully that they never realize it was guided at all. History remembers the noble rulers, but it rarely forgives them. Machiavelli believed that in a corrupt and dangerous world, those who clung too tightly to moral purity were destined to lose. The tragedy of the naive leader is not that they lack courage or vision. It is that they assume others share their values. They mistake kindness for a shield, honesty for an armor, and in doing so, they step unprotected into a battlefield where deception is the norm. In Renaissance Italy, political life was a game of constant betrayal. A leader who governed by virtue alone was easy prey for those willing to break the rules. Promises meant little. Oaths were broken the moment they became inconvenient. Machiavelli saw good men toppled not because their people did not love them, but because they underestimated the lengths others would go to claim power. The pattern repeats across history. Reformist kings, driven by ideals of justice, were deposed by ambitious rivals. Visionaries who tried to unite divided lands were cut down by those who profited from chaos. Even in our own time, the cycle continues. Whistleblowers reveal corruption only to be exiled from the very institutions they tried to protect. Activists who challenge powerful systems often find themselves discredited or silenced, not because their cause lacked merit, but because they failed to anticipate the ferocity of those with something to lose. Machiavelli's lesson was not that morality has no place in leadership, but that morality alone is insufficient. A ruler must balance ethics with pragmatism. They must understand that ideals must sometimes be shielded by strategy, that the greater good may require hard choices in the moment. The question he leaves us with is uncomfortable. Can one lead ethically without being destroyed? Perhaps the answer lies not in abandoning morality, but in arming it, tempering idealism with a clear-eyed understanding of human selfishness. In the harsh arena of power, survival is the first requirement for doing good. Without it, even the noblest vision dies with the leader who carried it. 5 centuries ago, Machiavelli navigated a world of handwritten letters, whispered rumors, and candlelit plots. Influence spread slowly, carried by messengers and word of mouth. Today, power moves at the speed of light. Yet if he were alive now, he would recognize the game instantly. The tactics are the same. The battlefield has simply expanded from Florence's narrow streets to the boundless, interconnected web of the digital world. Technology has not replaced manipulation. It has refined it. What Machiavelli once achieved through careful diplomacy and calculated appearances is now done through algorithms, micro-targeted advertising, and the curated lives of influencers. We live in an era of surveillance capitalism, where every click, search, and hesitation is recorded, analyzed, and sold to those who want to shape our choices. Machiavelli manipulated human nature. Today's power brokers manipulate data about that nature, predicting what we will think before we think it. Political micro-targeting would have fascinated him. In his time, a ruler might address a crowd, hoping to sway the masses with a single speech. Now, that same message can be sliced into 1,000 versions, each tailored to a different person's fears, beliefs, and desires, delivered directly to their screens in ways they may never notice. It is the art of telling everyone what they want to hear, without anyone realizing the message has been customized for them. Influencer culture is another modern echo of his principles. Machiavelli understood the mask of virtue, the power of appearing likable, trustworthy, and aspirational. Today, that mask is worn by millions on social media, where carefully crafted images and stories build influence without ever revealing the machinery behind them. Followers feel connected, even intimate, with people they will never meet, trusting their recommendations, adopting their values, and spreading their messages. Then there are the echo chambers, digital courts where only the voices that agree with us are allowed to speak. In Renaissance Florence, a ruler might limit dissent through censorship or patronage. Now, it happens invisibly through recommendation systems that feed us only the content we are most likely to engage with. Over time, this narrows our view of the world, making it easier to steer entire populations toward particular beliefs without them realizing they have been herded. The unsettling truth is that while Machiavelli's Florence was filled with manipulation, it was limited by time and distance. In our world, the tools are faster, broader, and more precise. A single narrative can be injected into millions of minds. In seconds, a single falsehood can travel further than any truth, reinforced by the very systems designed to keep us engaged. Machiavelli might look at the world today and see not progress, but perfection, the perfection of a craft he helped define. And the most dangerous part is this: we believe we are freer than ever, even as the strings are pulled tighter around us. We are not less manipulated than those in the courts of Renaissance Italy. We are more manipulated. Only now, the hands pulling the strings are hidden behind screens, code, and a smile.